was so exciting to see everybody on here today. I'm going to let Jess go ahead and get us started, and then keep using the chat if you got any comments, questions, or anything. We would love to hear from you there. So take it away, Jess.
Yes, welcome everyone. My name is Jess Ray. I am with Magnet Culture, and today I'll be joining Cara and the rest of you towards the beginning and the end of today's webinar. So today we're going to be focusing on kind of what value is like in our organization. And we know sometimes it's hard to feel valued when no one's really taken the time to get to know you. And employees often feel the same way and are more prone to walk out the door without that personal connection in the workplace. And man, that happens so quickly. So here today, we're going to focus on a few strategies and tools to help you as a leader in your organization get to know your team and help your team get to know one another. So Cara's going to spend the next few minutes sharing her thoughts on this topic as well as some strategies. So be sure to stay for the entire session, because we do have a special offer about our new training program at the end for each of you. So this is a recorded webinar. You can find all of our recordings from our past webinars and even today's to share with your team and use as a little training tidbit, if you will, at youtube.com/magnet culture. So check out this year's past webinars. We'll get this uploaded in the next few days. And Cara, I'll pass it off to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. All right. So many leaders have been telling me, especially here just in the last few months in particular, they are saying, Cara, hey, I love that you're telling me what I should do. I love that you have all these strategies and you're hearing all these best practices of what's working and what's not. And I appreciate that you're speaking to our group, or, whether it's at a conference or in the company, whatever. But they're saying, but I need help actually doing it, because I am so stinking busy that I'm pulled in a million different directions. I want to do these retention strategies, and I want to check in with my people and get to know them better and do more team building, but I don't have time to figure that out and really to even know where to start. So we decided today's webinar is going to be tools, tools, tools. And we are talking downloadable templates and just hit the ground running. You don't really even have to think a whole lot before you can just start using these tools. So all the tools that I'm going to talk about today are, of course, in our super secret hidden magnet vault. Okay. So Jess will pop that in the chat for you. You just go to magnetvault.com and then, of course, put in your email address. It's going to unlock this vault for you, and you will be able to download not only the 3 plus a bonus tool that I have for you today, but we have revamped our vault just in the last few months. And now it's got all kinds of those video snippets you can send to your leadership team or your managers for kind of micro training. It's got a ton of downloadables. I think we're up to, 10 or 15 that are in there now, as well as some ebooks and mini series type videos and books and all these things. Okay, so check that out. And of course, you know how the email system works. It is going to put you on our email list, which being on this webinar today already puts you on the email list. But if you ever want to opt out, you can. We don't email a whole lot. It's mostly just these webinar invitations and some occasional articles, blogs, podcasts, and things that serve as a tool for you. So go ahead to magnetvault.com, get in there, take a look around, and start downloading as I start talking about these different tools. So before I get into the 3 official tools that we mentioned for today's webinar, I want to say that one of the biggest things I am asking senior leaders and executives, as well as mid-level managers and even supervisors, to start with right now is a listening tour. Okay? Because with everyone being so busy, first things first is we don't even have time to check in with our folks and really hear what's going on. And then oftentimes I'm also hearing from the front line, I'm hearing that the leaders, as they climb the ladder, are becoming more and more disconnected. So you've heard me talk about that with emotional intelligence and other things, how over time, if you are not really careful and intentional, you can absolutely become disconnected from your front line and from even the folks who work directly underneath you. if you are super busy, or maybe you're just working on higher level things, you're in strategic meetings now, you're in a lot of meetings now, you're working behind spreadsheets now, and you're not on the front line doing the projects or the work or the caregiving or manufacturing or whatever field you're in, you're not doing the productive job as much as we used to. Or it could be that you are actually on the line doing the job because you're so short-staffed, and now there's just not time to check in with people because you're even more productive than you were when you were in meetings and being a manager or director, right? Does this make sense? So where I am suggesting is you start with a listening tour. And for a while, I was calling this an executive listening tour because I was speaking to leadership teams and senior executives, trying to get them to go listen to the front line and reconnect with those folks. But now I've realized that we really need to do this listening tour at every level of leadership, okay? So I've kind of switched my language here. If you've heard me talk about it or seen any of my posts online, that now I just call it the leadership listening tour. And I want you to think about some questions that you can go out there and ask. And guess what? There's a tool and a template for that. You don't even have to sit and think about questions yourself. One of the tools in the vault is an executive or leadership listening tour guide. Okay, it's a listening tour guide, and it's going to give you these questions. You don't have to ask all of them, but some of the questions, I'm cheating here. I've got them written down next to me. So some of those questions are, tell me about a great day at work recently. What did that look like? And that's going to tell you what really drives them and jazzes them up and things like that. And then another question to follow that up is, and tell me about a frustrating day. What did that look like? What was so frustrating for you? And if there was any other support or changes that could have been made to make that day less frustrating, what could that have looked like? Right? So you kind of can start positive of, tell me what's going well. How are things going here? And then dive into, and what's not so great, or what needs to be improved, and how can I support that? Okay. Now, these questions might sound to some of you a lot like stay interview questions, where you touch base with your staff and ask those kind of questions. And it's very similar to that. But this listening tour that I'm suggesting is, I want to make sure that the leaders who go ask these questions are not going on a defend yourself and debate type of tour. Okay. We say listening because I want you to ask these questions and then zip it. Okay. Just listen to folks. Now, if they ask you, why are we so short-staffed, or why is this a policy or a problem, or why can't I, you can answer that, but we don't want this to be a defend yourself tour when they start to say, well, I'm understaffed and I don't have the resources and our team doesn't have what it needs. And you need to do this and you need to do that. Because I know, working with leaders every single day, I know that the leaders are trying their best. Okay. But we have to stop for a minute, put ourselves in the staff shoes, and realize, even though we're like that, the duck analogy, where like we look okay, calm, cool, collected up above, and then paddling like hell underneath, right? So sometimes that can come across that way, but we absolutely need to make sure we're putting ourselves in their shoes, because it's all about the employee experience and the employee perception. You might think, oh, I can't believe you're upset about that. I've been trying. I'm working on it. Do you not know how hard I'm working and how much lost sleep I'm getting because of this issue? Don't defend yourself. Just listen, and then acknowledge, saying, I bet that is frustrating. And I can only imagine what it feels like on your side, because I know we share some of the same frustrations. And of course, we care about this. We are working on it, but I hadn't thought of it from your perspective and how much that is impacting you, for example. Okay. So validate their feelings, let them tell you about those difficult situations or frustrating challenges and whatnot. And just listen, just be there for them, instead of trying to go, but. Okay. So really important that we go do that. Some other questions that you can ask here are about recognition. Do they feel they're getting recognized in the way they deserve? And how would they like to be recognized moving forward if you haven't already asked that kind of question, right? Is there anything new you want to learn, skills or practice that you want to try, any cross training that you want? Because we all know as well that some people, they just get bored in the job and they're looking for another job because they want to grow. They want to do more things. And of course, we're busy and we'd love for them to just do the same job over and over and over because that's how we build efficiency and profitability. But we know that if we want to keep folks, we need that growth as well. So go into your team, talk to your team one-on-one, make sure that they're each given some time to give you their thoughts and go on that listening tour. The executives and leaders that I have already heard back from in the last few months that have done this, they said it was amazing. It was so eye-opening for them because in their words, they said, wow, I was making a lot of assumptions. And I thought, for example, that the job was the same as it was when I was in that role 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago, because I started my career where they are and I worked my way up. So I just said, well, I know that job. I used to do that job. And then when they talk to the front line, they absolutely said that is not the same job that it used to be. So, for example, my work is industry agnostic. I work in all different fields. One of those areas that I have some clients right now that I'm working with, it happens to be in senior care. And so, assisted living, nursing home space. And when we talk to some of the caregivers, the CNAs that are on the front line, they actually express to us, to me and the leaders of that community, that the CNA job itself is so much harder than it used to be. Because if you look at the acuity of the residents and patients that they serve, that acuity means how sick is a person. And today we're seeing a lot sicker patients and residents that are living in those communities. And so it takes a lot more care to take care of that person. Instead of just supporting them, it is a lot more caregiving that's hands-on. And not to mention, the CNAs were also talking about how demanding their customers are, both the residents and patients that they serve, but also the family members who come and visit or who demand higher quality care in a certain way, right? And so I just want to let you know, no matter who your customers are, chances are that even just serving your customers, even just getting out there what services and products you offer at your organization, it could be more difficult than ever for the front line to do that. You can think of the same thing in hospitality, in retail, food service. I mean, think about the customers who are just demanding more and expecting more and coming back to complain more and want things redone or done their way and all of that. So just don't make assumptions about what the job is like today. Go ask about exactly how has the job changed, especially in these last 3 to 5 years. I've seen a lot of folks in different fields tell me this job just isn't what it used to be pre-COVID, right? Pre-pandemic, it has changed. The expectations, the requirements, the regulations, whatever that is. So don't assume and ask. And then remember, zip it. Zip it. Listen. My first boss used to joke with me because, of course, I'm a talker. And he used to tell me early in my career, Cara, you have 2 ears and only 1 mouth for a reason. So listen more, kiddo. All right. Also, when you go on a listening tour or you send out any level of your managers out on this listening tour, I want you to anticipate intimidation. Okay. Now, what I mean is it's very likely that if managers just go out to the front line and start asking these questions, they're going to like, what do you want to know? Why are you asking? What's going on here, right? If you don't already have that kind of demeanor where you're constantly talking with your folks and checking in with your folks, that can be pretty jarring to someone. And also, I had an executive not too long ago And when I mentioned this kind of approach, he said, well, I don't understand. I mean, I'm not intimidating. And I said, pardon me, sir, but you don't get to decide whether you are intimidating or not. That is for other people to decide. And it was funny because this gentleman happened to be 6'3", 6'4". He was CEO of the company and did not think he was intimidating because he smiled a lot. And so, yes, being smiley and positive and approachable, certainly we can work on those so that our team does feel comfortable coming to us often with their concerns and ideas and issues. But when you go out and ask these questions, it's very likely you might not get their real answer right up front and the first time that you ask. So you're going to have to build trust and maybe even just kind of dip your toe in the questioning and listening water at first, instead of sitting down and grilling somebody with a handful of questions. Okay. So even just asking these in little one-on-one interactions that you have with folks, and not making it sound so official that, well, this is my listening tour time. So that kind of comes across too like a stay interview. That's the same way. If you're going to implement stay interviews, which are more formal, it's best to start slow with those rather than just jump in, because people just shake their head and go, I don't know that they really want to know the truth. And we have to build trust and make sure that they know they're not going to get in trouble. You're not going to gossip and tell their answers to everyone else. You're not going to use it against them if they do complain about things. We have to build that trust. So just anticipate that you might be intimidating, and you don't have to be 6'4" and have a title to be intimidating. I like to think I'm not intimidating because I am smiley and approachable and talkative and, very personable with folks. I even talk about work and life stuff, not just keep everything professional. But I can still be intimidating as well. Maybe I'm older than the person, maybe because I have my own business. You never know. Sometimes it's a gender thing that people get intimidated by, or whatever. It can be your title, your stature, your approach, anything. So just try to break down those walls as best you can and slowly build trust by asking just a few questions at a time at first before you dive a whole lot deeper. Okay. All right. So are you going to go on a listening tour? How many of you? Give me your raised hands. Give me your thumbs up. Give me your chat box. Like, yes, you or somebody at your organization, you are going to go on a listening tour. You're going to send some managers out on a listening tour to do this. Okay, great. Yeah, I see a bunch of hands raised. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Good times. You can put those hands back down if it'll let you. So thanks for sharing. Okay. So now remember that tool with the questions, and it's even got a little sheet where you can take notes. That listening tour guide is in the vault. Then here are the 3 tools that we wanted to share with you today, that are also right at your fingertips, super easy to get started and to implement right out the gate. So we all know, if you have been to any of my programs and webinars or read my book, Staying Power, or anything, you know that new hires tend to be our greatest flight risk. Okay. So we know that they do not have deep roots in the organization yet that are keeping them there. They do not have golden handcuffs that are keeping them there yet. And if they had the guts to leave their last company to come to you, guess what? They have guts to leave you to go on to the next shiny opportunity. So if we think about the new hire experience with folks coming in, and we want to talk specifically about getting to know those folks, do you have a get to know you conversation or even a worksheet? Okay, so we've saved you time. We created the worksheet. You can just download it. It's also great even to send to your current team members, not just the new hires, but to gauge, different aspects of your current team and let them see those as well. Because this tool, it's called the Get to Know You sheet. All right. Now, in an interview, you cannot ask, do you have children? Are you married? Right? We cannot ask those questions. That's illegal, to ask personal questions like that. But once somebody starts at the job with you, you can totally ask them all about themselves. You don't want to force it upon them that they share all the details, but in the get to know you sheet, you can ask general questions like, tell me about your family, tell me about your hobbies, those types of things. And some important things to put in there are also asking about your the way you like to be recognized, for example, okay? And asking about, when I recognize you, how do you want to be rewarded? Even some people want a thank you note, some people want a gift card. Can you ask them, if I were to gift something to you, where do you shop? What would you love to get as a gift card or a gift? And that can be really, really helpful as well, so that you can personalize those gifts and rewards, and even just recognition, even if you're not giving a gift. But some people like public recognition. Some people want it more private. Okay. So absolutely. Kim just chimed in and said she heard me talk about the get to know you sheet a long time ago and implemented it back then. So this isn't new, right? Kim let the cat out of the bag. This isn't brand new, but I'm just reminding you of this tool that's in our vault and easily accessible. She said her team loves it, and it's been a great way to show them appreciation as well, right? To personalize that appreciation is so important now. I will tell you, I am not a Starbucks person. And it's not that I don't like Starbucks. I'm not a coffee drinker at all. I don't really go to any coffee shops. And yet people will gift me Starbucks gift cards. And that's a great gesture, and I appreciate that. But I'm not a coffee drinker. So if I'm honest, I'm probably just going to re-gift that gift card to somebody who I know who does like coffee and does love to go there. So really, really simple and yet impactful, as Kim added there as well. So thanks for sharing that. All right, so get to know you sheets are great for the new hires. Then we have a new 2-minute employee check-in list that's in there, because a lot of the managers are telling me that, wow, Cara, I can't even tell you the last time that I actually checked in with every one of my team members. Some of them come to me quite often and we talk all the time, and others, I just let them do their thing and tell them, if you need me, let me know. But I don't really go to them and check in, because they're pretty autonomous, or maybe they're more of an introvert and they just want to work on their own and don't need as much supervision, or there's lots of different reasons that could be, right? So sometimes we need to keep track of when we have last checked in with folks. And I'm not saying check in on them, like, how are things going? And is the project on time? And, are there any problems? That's checking in on somebody. I'm talking about checking in with them, right? There's a slight difference, but it's really big if you think about it, because it isn't just performance and business and results oriented. It's checking in with them. How are you? How are things going? Not just projects, but in general. Are you keeping your head above water? Is there anything, that I can do to support you personally or professionally? Today, people are bringing their whole self to work. And so we as managers and leaders have to be prepared to support folks that maybe they're distracted today because of some things happening at home. And it's not as easy for those folks to just leave it at the door as we used to teach back in the late 1900s. Okay. So very different kind of relationship that we have with our staff today. And so I encourage you to really download that checklist and make sure that you keep track. I think it has little date markers, so you can say when you last checked in with your people instead of just checking in on them. And what a lot of managers are doing that I see with my own eyes is that drive-by check-in. You know what that is. I'm sure you're doing it. Some of you anyway. It's like, oh, hey, Shelly, yeah, how are things going? You good? All right, I'm headed to a meeting, but hey, you holler if you need me. That's a drive-by check-in. And sometimes those can do more damage than good, because it tells that other person, oh, well, she's too busy for me. So I don't want to bother her, and I don't want to go, mess up her day or anything, because she seems really, really, really busy, and she doesn't want to deal with my little problem, right? Even though that employee's little problem might be the reason that they're about to quit. Okay. So we have to listen to our folks and, of course, be as approachable as possible, but try not to just do the drive-by check-ins and say, oh, yeah, I talked to her yesterday. She's good. Oh, yeah, I checked in. Did you really? I don't know. And you know your people, but maybe take that to the next level and really schedule some time. It could be formal where you're checking in and putting that on everyone's schedule, or it could just be a reminder on your schedule to go check in with folks, okay, on a regular basis. Really, really important to find that time. And it doesn't have to be 30 or 60 minutes. It can be 5, 10, 15 minutes, but a 30-second drive-by is probably not doing the trick. Okay. So be careful with that one. All right. And then your third and final tool that we wanted to share today is how do we get our team to get to know our team a little bit better and to check in with them and build more trust, build better camaraderie on the team. We really want folks to have each other's back. I work with a lot of groups who have to schedule themselves, okay, whether that's manufacturing, healthcare, different groups, construction groups that have to cover certain projects and things like that. And the groups that have the most trust with one another, they can reach levels of trust where they can do self-scheduling on a team and figure out how to cover all the shifts and things like that. And when someone is out, either on vacation or unexpectedly, they can absolutely jump in and be there for those people, and they don't get upset about it. There's no animosity of, oh, well, she's out, so I've got to pull a double. It's not about that. It's like, oh my goodness, so-and-so can't be here. I'll jump in. I'll take care of that shift. I'll finish that and get it done by the deadline, right? Those types of things. So I've seen high levels of trust on teams where they really appreciate one another and have each other's back. And yet now I'm not seeing as much of that. I think part of it is because of all the turnover that we've had and how busy the managers are and how busy the staff is just getting the job done. But we have to put a bit more intentionality around building those team relationships and making sure that we're checking in with team members and they're checking in with each other as well, because that's when we're going to have more of that attitude of, I got you. I'll take care of that. No, you have a 2:00 kindergarten program for your kid who's a reindeer in the holiday show. You go. I will cover you while you go watch your little reindeer sing and dance. Okay. So really important that we try to get to that level. So a tool that you can use for that is these 2-minute team building questions. Again, in the vault, download the 2-minute team building questions for your team. And then that can be done at every staff meeting or at maybe a quick daily huddle. And again, these are 2 minutes or less where you just go around the group and ask some questions. Okay. I think the first couple questions on there, it's like dogs or cats or both or neither. Right. And that helps people find commonalities with one another, because when a new person comes on the team, you can't just say all the names of the team members and who's who. They want to get to know those folks. And today's new workforce really wants to find work friends. They want to find some of those folks who have the same interests, the same hobbies that they have, and that they can really get along with throughout the workday to build that camaraderie and become friends at work. So first one I think is cats or dogs. Then there's, if you have a chance to travel, do you want beaches or mountains? Right? That kind of thing. I heard another good one the other day. I don't even think it's on our list, but someone said, a manager said, I always love to ask my team members in a meeting, what was your first car? Because it always has a story. Most people, it was like not a great car when they got their very first car. And so a lot of people have funny stories about breaking down or learning to fix it, or whose car they inherited from their family or whatnot. And so there's just questions like that we can ask about some of their history, some interests that they have, hobbies, travel, if they get a chance to do that. It's really important that we help our team find those commonalities, because anybody who knows me knows I'm a dog lover. And so as soon as I find out that someone else loves dogs too, we are now BFFs. Okay. So now in the break room or the hallway, I can say, oh my gosh, I heard you love dogs. What kind of dog do you have? And what's their name? And how old? And all of a sudden we've built this friendship. Now the cat people are going to take me a little longer, but that's okay. I'm not anti-cat. It's just going to take me a little longer to find some other commonalities and things that we can really dive deeper on and chat about. Okay. So these are really simple tools, you all. And I know that I've asked you to spend some time. That's going to be the deal breaker, right? That's going to be your obstacle moving forward. But hopefully now that you have the PDF that you just downloaded while I was talking, hopefully, and maybe even printed it. I mean, these are all printable documents as well, but they should be able, you can use them on your phone and your tablet or your computer. So now you have that tool, you have the questions right in front of you. So just starting to put that as a habit into your team meetings, any one-on-ones you have, put the reminders on your calendar. For me, if it is not on my calendar, it does not get done. So if I need to call someone, check in with someone, think about something, just sit and reflect and observe and brainstorm about things, it has got to be on my calendar. So I encourage you to think about yourself, your own planning, and think about, is it calendar? Is it Post-it notes? Is it an assistant or somebody else that can help remind you and kind of hold you accountable to do some of these things? Hopefully you can implement at least one or two, or maybe all four of these strategies for getting to know your people better. Okay. And of course, the ultimate goal is reducing that unnecessary employee turnover. And these are just a few quick, easy ways that we can do that. Okay. So, all right. Jess, I'd love to send things back over to you for a few minutes.
Awesome, Cara, that was fantastic. And just to kind of repeat what she had mentioned, I have clients every day tell me that time is the barrier. But I had one client that said something that was really powerful. She said, we're now using time as an excuse. And so we really have to carve and put on our calendar 15 minutes a week, 30 minutes, an hour. Can you spare an hour to kind of work on that team building component? So we know that, again, time is a huge obstacle for companies. So can I get a yes in the chat or a little clock emoji? That now that Zoom's upgraded, right? We can throw a little clock emoji in there. Our Leadership Essentials program is the one I wanted to mention to you guys today. It has really taken off. It really exploded this year, particularly. Is a turnkey training program that provides the training that the managers need to retain today's new workforce. And so the program trains leaders in a format that works with that busy schedule time, right? So participants will watch an on-demand 30-minute content video at their convenience, and then they come together in a 90-minute facilitated discussion that works through the issues. They're brainstorming, they're role playing, they're breaking out into little groups. And then after that, they have a 4-week action guide that literally spoon feeds them how to implement all of the strategies that they learned in that 90-minute session in the content video too. We launched this program last year, and one of our first clients implemented and changed company policies that the team came up with after one of their facilitated discussions. So they're really making, these classes are really helping change culture components of organizations. Today, we are going to give a special offer of purchasing 3 classes and you get 1 free. But you have to purchase within the next 30 days. So you can contact me, jess@magnetculture.com or solutions@magnetculture.com, and just type that you've got some interest in that, and I can go through the classes with you and how that works and planning it and all that jazz to get 4 classes for the price of 3. Several of our clients are choosing to run those classes virtually through this Leadership Essentials program, and we really have had such great success with it. So we do have some questions rolling in, but if you have one specifically for Cara, now is the time to throw that Q&A in that little box down there at the bottom. So I'll just go ahead and move to this first question, Cara. This says, how do you navigate listening to or getting to know an employee who seems to not want a personal connection with you as a leader? Maybe they're a little reserved, or maybe they had a bad experience in the past. So how do you navigate that listening to?
Yeah, interesting. And we actually just got a second question. People think alike, right? We just got a second question that's similar. What are your tips to connect and build a team if the majority of your team either works remote or are introverts, right?
Mhm.
So that definitely makes it different. So, okay. So, if you've got folks who don't seem to want to talk personal, remember there is a good chunk of our workforce that still prefers to separate personal from professional. Okay. And we need to respect that and be fine with that. As a leader, I struggle with that because I want to be friends with all my team. And even though I'm their boss, I am much more of an egalitarian leader that just wants to know, how was your weekend and how's your sick mom? And, those kind of things. But we have to respect that some people really want to keep those things private, or just kind of separate. They don't bring their work stuff in, or sorry, they don't bring their home stuff into work, and they don't take their work stuff home in a lot of cases. So just be aware of that. Others, it may just be that it takes time to open those gates and to really build trust. Maybe they worked for a manager who learned about their home life and then used it against them, or just didn't speak appropriately about those things at work. And so they're kind of, I don't know if I want to tell you this stuff and whatnot. So if it is somebody, there's some that may want to separate personal from professional. Others, it may just take time to slowly build that trust and to dive deeper into more of that friendship or getting to know them. As far as introverts as well, specifically, oftentimes they want that conversation to just be one-on-one and to not be an open, put on the spot. I'm glad that Amy asked this, because those 2-minute team building questions, the extroverts love that. We think as we talk and we can come up with that usually more quickly. But introverts maybe at the start of the meeting say, hey, our 2-minute team building question that we're going to ask at the end is going to be this. So think about your answer. And then when you get to the end of the staff huddle, then you say, all right, let's hear everybody's answers. And that way it does give them some time to process. Or if you're going to ask everybody at once, maybe start with extroverts and give the introverts a minute to think about that. Remote work, that's like a whole other presentation, but I will definitely say you have to be more intentional with team building on a remote team than ever before in an office, because there is no water cooler. There is no hallway pass by. There is no pop your head into their office and check on things or tell them about your weekend. That doesn't exist. And many of if you know my team, we have been remote for 10 years. In fact, my staff member who's been with me the longest, that's one of my right-hand folks, she is 2 time zones away from me. And people say, oh my gosh, how can you do that? How can you not only work like that, but how can you build trust and camaraderie and everything? And I'll tell you, we are super close. And it's because we start our meetings, because we're virtual, we start all of our meetings with 5 to 10 minutes of news and updates and chit chat. Okay. Now I'm really process oriented and I want to jump in to get things done, but I have to remember that this is really, really important. It is valuable and it is productive time. Do not think that chit chatting is not productive time, particularly when you are a remote team, because that's really the only chance you get at that water cooler talk and checking in with folks. So you have to kind of build that into your team meeting structure and even your one-on-one time with folks. And then we still do, some people have gone away from this, but we still do a virtual happy hour every other week. We actually changed it from 4 o'clock back to 1 o'clock because we had some folks that, finish work early and leave to go get kids and whatnot. So we re-asked the whole team, what's the best time for everybody? We did a little poll and we found that Thursdays at 1 o'clock every other week was a good time, because some people could even eat their lunch while they're on the happy hour. And it's optional. We don't force people to come to that, but those who want to get to know their team members, we chit chat, and we are not allowed to talk about work. Right, Jess?
We try,
No,
we try.
I know. Jess will say, I just have one quick work question. We go, not going to
Not
happen.
allowed.
Nope. You got to wait till the end of the hour.
That's right.
So yeah, we're very intentional about giving the remote team that space and that time. And just since you all brought it up, I will say I'm seeing all of this, a lot of people are going back into the office. We've got this big wave of corporate groups that are pulling people back into the office and whatnot. And I will say it is a different skill set to manage remote workers than it is to manage people that you see sitting at a desk. But be careful, visibility does not equal productivity. Some people are actually more productive at home. Some people are less productive at work because of the chit chat, because of the distractions. They're just sitting there watching cat videos on YouTube, for heaven's sake. I mean, it could be anything. So I'm just seeing a big shift of companies going back into the office again. And I want to make managers aware, if you're managing both, the hybrid space, or you're making that shift in one direction or another, it's actually a different set of leadership skills and a different set of communication skills that it takes to be successful managing remote versus managing in-person folks. So just something to keep in mind there. So, all right. It looks like,
yeah, we do have one question here from Bev. It's a good one here, Bev. So thanks for submitting. So Bev says, how do you suggest trying to rebuild trust when it's been broken? What questions can you ask that are more likely to demonstrate care versus being nosy?
Oh, good question. And also, I mean, I see a lot of folks on this call today that probably have good answers to these questions. So I'm not the be all end all conflict resolution kind of person. Feel free to put in your advice and anything that you've learned as a leader as well. What I will say is we definitely have seen a lot of trust broken over not even just the last year or two, but over the last 10 to 20 years. If you think about our society, now we're starting to question, I'm not going to get political here, but we are starting to question who's telling us the truth as far as, with politics or with the news, with even trusted advisors who then are not who they said they were because something bad happened and they got in trouble, right? So we're seeing, even as a society, that happen. And I'm seeing a ton of people in the workplace, they'll change jobs because they lost trust in their last boss or their last company, and they bring that baggage into the new company. So for example, somebody will say to their, a boss says to their employee, please, can you just stay tonight? Can you just work this double tonight? And I swear I will not call you this weekend. I promise I will not bother you to work an extra shift this weekend. I just need you to cover tonight and we'll be all set. Okay, so then the person covers the shift, and then 2 more people quit on Friday. And now the manager is desperate. And the manager calls on Saturday morning and says, I know, I promised, I swore that I wasn't going to call you this weekend, but I'm desperate. And I didn't know 2 more people were going to quit and, right? So these are good intentioned managers, okay, that did not mean to lie. They did not mean to mislead anyone, but they had to kind of go back on their promise. For lack of a better word. So if we think about that person, like maybe that's your situation, or maybe that's the situation somebody came from, where a person kept breaking their promise over and over, or the company kept saying, oh, we're going to get our head back above water. Oh, we're going to get rid of mandatory overtime soon, and they just kept making promises. And 3 months later, 6 months later, 12 months later, they're not keeping their promises. And so now that person has come to your organization. They are not going to believe what comes out of your mouth, okay? Because their last boss, their last company did not tell them the truth, or lied to them, or misled them, or had good intentions and had to, renege on that offer or promise or whatnot. And so absolutely have to be aware that some people are just coming in and it's going to take a lot longer to rebuild that trust. So just start small. I think another thing, because we're so busy, sorry, I'm getting kind of long-winded here, Bev, but another thing about trust is we are so busy that we will say ambiguous language like, I'll try to get to that this afternoon, or maybe I can get that done before I leave today. I'll probably be able to do that for you before my shift ends. Do you hear those words? I'll try, maybe, probably. Okay. I just taught our communication class the other day, and we spent quite a bit of time on this ambiguous language, because if you say, I'll try to get to that, I can probably get that done today, what the other person hears is, oh yeah, she's taking care of that today. She's going to do that. She said she'll do it. And you know that you said, well, I'll try, I'll see if I can get it done. And you're hopeful, you're well-intentioned, but then that person thinks it's a done deal. And the next day when it doesn't get done, they think you lied to them, or you didn't follow through on what you promised me or told me you were going to do. So we have to be really careful with some of that, even teeny tiny language, words that make a huge difference coming from a sender to a receiver, right? People are going to receive a message differently than exactly the way that you put it out there and that you intended. So building trust absolutely starts with watching your language and your words and your promises, being much more clear in deadlines and what you can and cannot accomplish for people, following through on anything you promise, and not even breaking little promises like I'll try to get to that today. You know, that seems little and insignificant, but I'll tell you, I've worked for managers in the past who said that over and over and over, and then I just couldn't count on them. I couldn't trust that they were going to get to me what I asked for, or that they were going to think about what they said. Well, I'll think about that and get back to you. And they'd never get back to me. And then when I would come ask them, did you have a chance to think about that? They go, oh no, I haven't had a chance to think about that yet. Like, you told me you would think about it and get back to me. And they didn't. So now I don't trust you anymore. Right. So make sure we watch our language and be careful with that. And as far as the demonstrating care versus being nosy, if I know something is going on with a team member, you know, personally or professionally or whatnot, I typically start with, I don't mean to pry, and you don't have to tell me anything, but I just wanted to check in, make sure that you're doing okay, and ask if there's any way I can support you. If you want me to listen, or you need any, you know, a sounding board for anything, if there's anything I can do to help, I'd be happy to be there for you. Right. So even just being very blunt and very open and upfront, transparent right out the gate that, hey, I'm not trying to pry. You do not have to tell me anything, but I did see on Facebook that you're going through some trouble, or I know you talked to me the other day about some things you're worried about. If you want to talk about it, we can dive deeper, and I'm happy to support you with that. Okay. So, so just not checking in with people and going, so is everything okay with your husband? Like, you know, be a little more sensitive, because they may have also told you something and then honestly wish later that they hadn't have told you, and they would like for you to forget that they told you that. And so you can say, you know, I know you mentioned some issues you were having at home, and so I'm here for you. I've been thinking about you. And if you want to talk about it, great. And if not, I totally understand. Right. So hopefully that will be helpful as well moving forward. All right. So anything else as we wrap up here, Jess? It's been a great message. I'm sure you all have meetings in 8 minutes because you're busy going back to back with things. I hope you will use these tools that we have shared with you, and feel free to send it out to other people. You are welcome to share our super secret hidden vault with other folks if you think that they would find any of those downloadable tools helpful. And of course, reach out to us if you need any management training. This new Leadership Essentials class is amazing. People are loving it. And you have about a dozen topics to pick from for your quarterly or every other month kind of training. And that can be in person, but most groups are doing it virtual. because everybody's busy. So really exciting. And we will also, yes, have a recording of today's session available. We will post this within a day or two to our YouTube page. Just look for Magnet Culture on YouTube, and have a wonderful day. Keep up the great work, friends. Thank you for everything you do every day. You are amazing. Bye, friends.